the Know Thyself conference. It has A Course in Miracles teachers, non-dual teachers, scientists, philosophers, great musicians. And Aaron Abke he's not a musician that I know, although I think he has a pretty good voice, but he's an awesome teacher and Course in Miracles and non-dual. Actually, I think he is a musician because he was yeah. So he
got my degree in music.
You do? Okay.
In my former lifetime.
Nice, nice. Well, Aaron I'm grateful that he's a repeat presenter for Pure Presence conferences. He's such a great guy, and he's handsome. He's personable. He knows the Course. He knows non-duality. He knows Eastern mysticism. He has some Hindu up his sleeve. He knows Advaita quite well. Aaron, thank you for being part of the Know Thyself conference and this Facebook Live today. I appreciate you being here.
Well, man, it's always such a pleasure to be with you, especially Bill, and any of the conferences and events you put on are always just spectacular and have an amazing lineup of speakers. So I'm always honored to be a part of it, man. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Aaron. And Aaron's session, I mean, if you've been to one of Aaron's sessions, you know that he comes to give you the goods. He comes to help you understand what awakening is, how to recognize it, how to experience it. He gives you detailed information for a direct experience and understanding. And Aaron, your session is called the I Am State. And for most of the people that are members of this Facebook page are Course in Miracles students. They enjoy having us bring presenters to this page because then they can kind of get a sense of what the conference is going to be about. What is it that you would share with A Course in Miracles students that they may not be familiar with, or just in general, what is the I Am state that they would connect with?
Yeah, so what I'm really passionate about right now is sort of a new, I might call it like a teaching modality that I've been working on for quite some time that sort of just gives new language to these classical spiritual concepts we hear all the time, such as enlightenment or self-realization. And it's basically sort of centered around the idea of spiritual intelligence, which correlates to each one of the 7 energy centers. So we could say that there are 7 levels of spiritual intelligence that we access as we activate and unlock them within ourselves through our spiritual practice. And so the I Am state is sort of my terminology that I'm using to call what we typically would refer to as inner peace or loving awareness. You've heard those phrases. It's really the state of mind-heart coherence. And, a lot of great teachers like Bruce Lipton, Joe Dispenza, Greg Braden, talk a lot about the idea of mind-heart coherence. It's really just when I like to see it as when the mind comes to rest in the heart and allow the heart to lead the show more so than the mind trying to always lead the show. Meaning we live from a state of detached alertness where we're not grasping at the world anymore and we're not pushing it away anymore. We're just present with what is, and we're not looking for anything, right? We're not looking to be fulfilled in the world or to escape something in the world. So it's sort of like when we're able to carry the meditative state into waking ordinary reality. Somebody who's in a state of loving awareness or mind-heart coherence is basically in a meditative state. And actually their brainwave data would show that and does show that when we look at the different studies done on advanced meditators and monks, and they can compare their brainwaves in their normal waking reality to their meditative brainwaves. And there's certain elements that stay in that state of mind-heart coherence, such as high alpha wave activity, which typically alpha wave activity, if you study brain waves, when alpha waves rise above beta waves, they say, oh, that's a great meditative state. because alpha waves dictate your detached alertness. Like you're present, but you're not analyzing everything with your conscious mind, right? You're just noticing, you're just observing. That's alpha. So alpha is always touted as like the meditative brainwave, right? So when they study these people, these advanced meditators, you always see the huge alpha wave above beta wave in meditation, but then in ordinary reality, it's like here, it's still high above beta, which means they're not trying to intellectually figure everything out or stress over the details. They're just letting life come to them. So it's a state of inner peace, of loving awareness, or as Nisargadatta would say, affectionate awareness. And it's absolutely congruent with everything that, ACIM would teach about finding the peace of God, just maybe wrapped up in a bit of different terminology.
Right. Yep. Cool. I love that. It reminds me of that workbook lesson that says, I will step back and let him lead the way. It correlates with that because that's what the hymn is. The hymn is the heart, right?
Yes, you got it.
Yeah.
And another way you could see it is like a sort of a union of the masculine and feminine really merging together. I like to say that the heart sort of represents the feminine principle within the body, and the brain represents the masculine principle within the body, in that the heart feels and the mind thinks or analyzes. And they're really meant to work in synergy, right, with one another. But what typically happens in, the ordinary person's life is there's no real connection to your intuition and your deeper inner knowledge. There's just this constant stressing and trying to think your way through everything. And so that creates the really high beta waves, which causes anxiety and stress. And so the IM state is also what I call the first state of mastery. And there's 3 states of mastery that correlate to the upper 3 chakras. So the first state of mastery is at the throat chakra level. Second is the third eye level. Third is the crown chakra level. And these are classical enlightenment states we refer to as enlightenment or non-duality at the throat chakra level, non-doership at the third eye level, and then God consciousness essentially at the crown chakra level, very rare state of consciousness. And I like to call them the IM state at the throat level, the flow state at the third eye level, and then the channeling state at the crown level. So the channeling state would be like the Buddhas, the Christ, the people who, when they speak, it's mind blowing to listen to, right? It's like they're always channeling or something, but they're just in that state. They're just that tapped in, right?
Yeah.
The flow state would be non-doership, where you literally lose the sense of being an individual self doing anything. But there's that feeling of I'm being lived by the divine power. And I actually can't separate me from that divine power. Like we have merged into one. And that's the third eye level. So the IM state is kind of the prerequisite to those upper states of mastery that we gradually move into. And what's interesting is, the throat chakra is right in between the heart and the brain. And that's because it represents that perfect balance between love and wisdom, or heart and mind, masculine and feminine. And the throat chakra itself, really cool fact about the Sanskrit name, the throat chakra itself actually points to this. The Sanskrit name is Vishuddha for the throat chakra level. Some of you may know that. And in Sanskrit, the word Shuddha means purification, and the word V means like total or complete. So the full literal name in Sanskrit of the throat chakra is total purification. And that's where we start to reach the enlightenment level, where the mind is purified by the loving intuition and awareness of the heart. And they come to have that balance. So we're going to be talking about that in my session, and how can we begin to cultivate that state within ourselves. And as you pointed out, Bill, how do we know when we're in that state?
Yeah. Yeah. And most Course in Miracles students don't know, even though they read, and I considered myself to be one of these for a long time, where you read nice phrases in the Course that says enlightenment is not a change, it's but a recognition of what you are always. And then you have the forgiveness lessons and the text, and it's very dualistic in its language and understanding. And I find that the how to come to the end of forgiveness and God takes the last step. How does that occur? And that's where most Course in Miracles students are lost, because they don't know when it occurs or what it looks like when God takes the last step. Even though there's lots of language in the Course and sections that point to the real world, which I would think of the real world is the I am state that you're speaking of.
Yeah.
Or where in the Blue Book, I think it's called the attainment of the real world. Then you have beyond the body. You have the resurrection is also is the awakening state. So how does someone recognize their glimpses or their awakening state is occurring?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is a really interesting question to me, because it's one that I've asked myself many times throughout my journey. And speaking from personal experience, I can only say that how it's played out for me is that you almost don't notice these changes occurring. In fact, usually you don't even notice it at all, because enlightenment is like an eraser that just leaves nothing in its wake, right? When it comes through. I think the Course says it's not a learning, but an unlearning. So it's like falling asleep at night in some sense, where once you're in your dream, right, you wouldn't think, when did I fall asleep and enter this dream world, right? You don't have the ability to think that. It's kind of like that, in the sense that when you fall asleep to the world of illusions and separation, you don't know when it happened, but you might have an experience where somebody does something very, very obviously hurtful or attacking to you, and you just don't have the ability to hold it against them. You just go, it's just where they are. Like, I can't hold it against them. I forgive them, whatever. You just move on. And then you catch yourself and go, wait a minute. I bet you 2 years ago, I would have been seething over this for weeks, months, years. When did that change occur within myself? I don't know. It's been a sort of a gradual melting or a gradual boiling of the ego or something. But how to recognize it when it's there is that, and this is something we'll talk about in my session, but the more connected we are to divine reality, I feel like the less and less we are interested in the what of what's happening around us in our life, and we're more interested in the why of, like, what's, like the Course would say, all things are lessons God would have me learn. You notice that the way you engage with reality changes dramatically, in that if something seemingly negative happens, you don't actually care so much that something challenging or painful is happening. You're really interested in, what's the lesson? What is life pulling out of me? What is life teaching me? And you just go there right away. And I think if you can recognize yourself doing that in your day-to-day life, where you're just always looking for, what is life speaking to me? What is life trying to teach me and cultivate in me? If you can say yes to that, I would say that's one way you can recognize that this very powerful transformation has silently taken place in you.
Yeah. It is a silent recognition. It's a silent, all of a sudden you begin to softly and gently see and feel the world in a completely different way.
Mm-hmm.
And you're so that phrase, that living in the world and not of the world, it really does come into a direct experience.
Yes. It's sort of like, if you've never been to San Francisco and I tell you a bunch of things about it, like, the Pier 39 where the walruses lay, and the Golden Gate where the lovers walk, or whatever. And you're like, okay, sounds cool. And you kind of relate to it, but not really. And then years later, you go to San Francisco and you're walking across Pier 39 and you see the walruses. And you go, that's what he meant. And you go to the Golden Gate and you see the lovers, and that's what he meant. Yes. I feel like that's what a lot of Christ's teachings are like, where, we read him in Sunday school and church, and we think we know what he means. But it's really only when you start to step into that state that was Christ's own state that you go, I see what he really meant. Like you almost have to be there to fully get it, right?
Yeah, yeah. It's so cool having your understanding available, Aaron, because you come, as a pastor's son. You went to a religious university. You were on your way to be a pastor, right?
Mhm.
And you found a course, and that course, it just it did to you what it did to me. It just sort of went, okay, now all those verses make sense.
Right. Yep.
Now they all come into play. And then you moved from there and you found Advaita, you found the non-dual teaching, you found the law of one, and you've really, you also seem to use a little bit of heart math in your language of things. And so to put all of that together, Christians, non-dual atheists,
Hindus.
anyone on the path, Hindu, whatever your path is, that Aaron, you seem to have an understanding and able to put complicated, or what used to be complicated, pieces together in one idea. Yeah.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that a lot.
It's totally true. I mean, you've done a couple of things for the Teachers of God Foundation and Pure Presence conferences. I've watched you teach, and somehow you're this Moses in a young man's body. I don't know how you did it.
Well,
good job.
Thank you. I'll take it.
Yeah.
What it is for me, I think, Bill, is that sort of like a chef who loves to cook and enjoys so many different cuisine types and cultural food flavors and whatnot. It's like all the flavors are so delicious to me, and I can't just stick to one only. But it's like if I'm cooking a meal, which is what I'm teaching, like it's so much better when you add this spice and this herb and that herb. And when we put it all together and we see that like all these different teachings and modalities, whether it's Western science, Hinduism, Buddhism, non-duality, Course in Miracles, whatever, mysticism, they're all saying the same stuff. And when we can understand how they're saying it with the different language and stuff, it brings it all to life so much more, and it validates everything so much more. And it gives us permission to truly, I think, not just believe in what we're hearing, but to see it from different angles. And I guess the way my brain works is that I understand one thing so much better when I can look at it from many different points of view. And I think that just kind of happened for me naturally on my own path.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it works. It works for the audience that I know that follows you. That it works very well. And I have a question for the ones that are coming to the Know Thyself conference. Will they, in your session, will they have an opportunity for a direct experience?
Absolutely. Yeah. We'll do a guided meditation on the I am state and allow people to just kind of get a sense for it, because as you pointed out, it's also something, it's also important to know or be able to be aware of when you are in that state of consciousness or in that state of being. And to me, the I am state is really just kind of that intimate tuning into self, where fears and desires disappear and you're just absolutely pristinely present and accepting of what is. And that's, it's such a simple state of consciousness in one sense that it can be overlooked or missed. Because again, the spiritual journey is such a gradual one, and we heal things, so gradually along that path that as things fall away, we don't really have a context for a referential anymore for what that old paradigm was like. We sort of forget about it the way we forget our dreams at night. And then we can just be in that kind of connected state and not really know we are. And I think that the ability to know when you're there is also very important.
Well, the ability to know, and this is why a teacher like yourself and many of the teachers that are coming to the conference, the reason they are so valuable at this kind of a venue is because what you say, what a teacher says will validate someone's experience so that they can know the experience is true, so that they can verify their own experience, because now they're hearing you talk about it. in something that resonates with them. And so you're giving the audience validation, verification, and certainty comes in. It follows that resonant connection. It's just and that's I think that's why we do these conferences, because and that's why I'm so excited about this conference, because this is our fifth conference. We've done free ones and we've done paid ones. The replays basically pay the bills when people buy the replays and pay the cost of doing the conference. Most of the teachers, they come for free, and if people buy replays on their link, they get some stipend from it. But it's mostly because we want to share the truth of what has been learned by all of these different teachers with the world, so that they can have their awakening experiences as well.
Yeah.
What would you say, Aaron, about, and I know that you were on the Christian path in the beginning, as I was, and Jesus was quoted as saying that the things I do, you shall do and more. How would you follow that up? Is that happening? Is that happening for you?
I very much see that verse as Christ's own awareness of just the natural evolutionary process. And this is very much law of one, sort of more leaning towards law of one teachings, but we as individuals are evolving, and as a collective, as a planet, are evolving as we move through those 7 levels, which in the macrocosm is the 7 densities of consciousness. In the microcosm, in myself, we could call it 7 levels of spiritual intelligence that I can access in a human lifetime if I want them bad enough. So Jesus, I think, was kind of speaking to this fact of like, I know that humanity is evolving. The things that I do, the supernatural abilities I have, we know that, other people display those same abilities as well. Christ was kind of unique in the sense that he, as one individual, could express a lot of those cities or powers. But we are, I think, moving into a new age, a new era where we might call it 4th density consciousness. Some people call it the 5th dimension. But we're upgrading collectively as we're kind of healing our planet and the shadows on our planet, so we can move towards an enlightened civilization. And I think that will allow this knowledge we're discussing right now to become what's considered common knowledge. And everyone knows, we're all evolving. We're all energetic beings that are here to cultivate that energy and evolve it. And so I really do think Christ was sort of speaking to that in the future, what I'm doing now, which is amazing to all of you, will be like normal at that point.
Right. Yeah, I feel that way too. I feel that that the things that we're presenting today in the conferences and there's so many spiritual teachers today, then there and also not enough, because it's only there's a very small percentage of the world that is interested in these things. And so at some point, there must be a tipping point where at some point everyone is going to like get it at one time. And it's very refreshing for me to have so many teachers bringing content to a conference like this, and people that I'm familiar with, being able to share these ideas in a way where people realize, well, that it's not complicated. It's super simple. Everyone has access to it, and there's no judgment involved. No matter where you are in your life, you have access to this direct experience of your own self.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why it's so important to have teachers at different levels of that spiritual development who can meet people where they're at. Because a Rupert Spira, as amazing as he is not an entry-level teacher. Like somebody who has never meditated before and is like, unaware of spiritual teachings isn't going to get into Rupert Spira first. He's more like 2nd, 3rd, 4th level teachings. So thank God we have the Tony Robbins and the Joe Dispenzas who can meet the average person where they are and just say, hey, I'm here to empower you. And then after empowerment, we want awakening. After awakening, we want integration. After integration, we want non-duality. So it's like we need teachers everywhere, all over the map. And I think you do a great job of bringing in lots of different levels on that spectrum in terms of the teachers and the speakers.
Yeah, thank you. Well, we do that on purpose. We want to meet the audience where the different levels that they are. So we have all those different levels of teachers and scientists, physicists and philosophers, great teachers of our time, and even the series that we started doing in the Evolve member area that we started with the Teachers of God Foundation, the Integrated Awakening series. It came as it was inspired from the Integrated Awakening Conference, and I said I called you and 11 other teachers over to the Integrated Awakening series. And now I've got you for a month talking about devotion.
Yep.
We have you bringing devotion. We just finished, or actually Helen Hamilton, great teacher, mother of 4, but awakened master, is teaching one of our master classes. And so we're just really wanting to help to promote this message to the world. And I know that's where your heart is. You started out with a heart for God, and you're now, I mean, this is a little bit blasphemous, but now that you know that you are God, you can express it in a bigger way, a big way. And yeah, it's great. So good.
Yeah, you're so right. I always say that I loved Jesus so much that I couldn't stay a Christian anymore, because Jesus wasn't a Christian, obviously. And at a certain point, you realize whatever it is that inspires me so much about this figure, this Christ figure, it isn't because that's what inspired him, right? Jesus didn't confess himself as his personal Lord and Savior. He had something else, right? The I and the Father are one recognition. So that's what I realized I had to pursue if I wanted to have more of Christ in my own being. And I think that's a journey everyone realizes at a certain point, maybe not in this lifetime, but maybe in their next lifetime. Jesus will lead you to that realization. Yeah.
Well, we are looking forward to having you in the conference in April. You'll be live on April 24th. That's a Sunday morning, I think. And looking forward to having you in person for the conference. Not in person, really, but in person again.
Virtually in person.
Virtually in person. And Aaron, what would be your final words for this Facebook Live, for this inviting people to this free event?
Well, there's just so many great speakers, so many options to choose from. And if you're choosing to come to my event, just be ready to have your awareness of self stretched a little bit. And to, one of the reasons I mentioned that this new teaching modality I'm using on my YouTube channel and stuff is so helpful, is because it's putting different language and terminology on things that normally make people feel disqualified. So if I talk about enlightenment, probably 90% of the people listening will go, okay, great. So he's talking about something that I really don't have access to in this life. I'm just not advanced enough. Buddha was enlightened. I'm not like on Buddha's level. Right. And that's a sad thing, right? Because it's not true. You absolutely have just as much access as the Buddha or Christ did. And so I think using different words like the I am state, can you access that feeling in yourself now? And to see that you can means, well, then of course it's possible. Enlightenment's possible for you because you just experienced it within yourself, right? So that's what we're going to be doing.
Nice. Yeah. I like that you are breaking it down for non-spiritual users, and even other modalities, other teachings can go, oh, I'm doing that, and you're making it simple enough in language for people to realize everyone has this. You don't have to go to a university. You don't have to go. You can find out. You can do a check-in, and you can see that you have access to I am, and everyone has access to I am, and actually puts I am in front of almost everything that they do.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. If you love that state of consciousness enough, you can be in it all the time.
Yes.
That's all enlightenment requires, right?
Yeah. It's a living meditation.
You got it.
Well, Aaron, thank you for joining with us today, and a happy Friday to you. Have an awesome weekend.
Thank you so much.
And we'll see you in a few weeks at the Know Thyself conference.
Sounds great. I can't wait.
Thank you all. And there's a link that's been dropped in the chat for you to sign up for this conference. It's totally free, live, and we look forward to seeing you there. Bye,
Likewise,
everyone.
my friend. Bye.
Thank you, Aaron.